Okay. Good day, everyone. This is Rita Choi, founder of Asia HRM. Asia HRM is a human resources community focusing on leadership and coaching. We help organizations build high-performing teams. We are an advocate for coaching because we believe that everybody deserves to be coached. And our vision is to make coaching affordable and accessible to everybody in the world. So we do have a coaching platform. We also have AI augmented coaching services. If you do want to know more, just let us know. As a continuation of the HR Leaders series for Singapore, do you still remember what did our speakers tell us last week? He talked about disruption-ready leaders, right? He shared with us tips such as to embrace ambiguities, uncertainties, and also to be more empathetic. So this time, we are going to talk about how to turn personal change into shared purpose. And we are so glad and honored to have Gayatheri Silvakumer, who is the Vice President, People and Culture, Staff Alliance Singapore, to talk on this wonderful topic. Without further ado, I would love to give the control to Gayatheri, who has prepared a deck, and also have some questions for her. And for those who are watching us now, please just feel free to say hello to us. And at the same time, just put your questions or comments in the comment box. Thank you so much. Gayatheri, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rita. I really appreciate, first of all, for the opportunity. It's always great to have a platform to share experience because there's a lot of theory, a lot of books that's already written in about many things. But when we share experience, it's real and it's what we have gone through. We have failed, we probably have succeeded. So somewhere along the line, this experience has built us as strong HR practitioners. So before I begin, I just want to thank all of you, whoever's logged in, to stay for choosing to log in, to stay present with us today, and to spend this time together, learning from each other. Okay. So, as you can see, the title today is Beyond Alignment. We're going to talk about turning personal change into shared purpose. I want to be upfront about what this is and what this isn't about. I'm not here to share processes with you, not here to share with you a way of how you can do change, not the framework, not going to share with you models or step-by-step methodology on how you can do this. There are already plenty of talks and plenty of resources to do that out there. What I want to talk about instead is something we don't spend enough time on, the personal experience of change. Because most of us don't experience change in a neat way. We experience it as uncertainty, as tension, as something that's taking some part of us, out of our life. It's a moment where we are doing the right thing. However, it just doesn't feel easy. Over the course of my career, I have been part of change that failed, watched organizations struggle, stumble, and also been in an environment where change genuinely turned into something people owned and believed in. So today it's not about alignment in the traditional sense. It's about what happens beneath it. How personal change becomes shared purpose and why that's the part we can't afford to ignore. Most change effort fails not because the strategy is poor, but because they speak to the left side, leaving people on the right side, which means we communicate but we don't connect. People are expected to cross that gap alone and quietly and just take it on. When they can't do that, that's when they are labeled as showing resistance. So, my personal story, I'm just going to share one personal story over here. Not going too much of the details, I'm going to touch about the emotion that I had throughout the time that I had to do this change. Early in my career, I stepped into a regional leadership role across multiple countries. The organization desperately and very urgently needed change. There were compliance issues, broken leadership, very weak and low moral, and also broken trust. So, strategically on the paper, the case for transformation was super clear. However, there was a lot of emotional turmoil that was involved in there because if we had to change and go with the transformation, it's changing the entire leadership team. And so there's a lot of sensitivity that was involved there. And I was new. What wasn't really clear for me is that how and where do I emotionally fit inside that change? I was expected to act very quickly, and I was immediately pulled into all the critical decision making, including terminations and leadership accountability, compliance issues, and so on. Outwardly, I was just doing what is expected of me, but internally, I was going through a storm of emotion, fear, worry, navigating doubts. I was in isolation because I'm in the region. My leaders are sitting globally somewhere else, and I have nobody to talk to because it was it was me new there alone, trying to make this change, trying to put things together, and then there's them who don't want to do it. They are the one who caused it. So a very quiet fear was inside me of how I am being seen. My loyalty was questioned, and am I being disruptive since I just came and then the change just happened? So with all that, there was one thing that I was still contemplating. And that particular moment stayed quietly inside me, and I was contemplating it for days. And I remember sitting with this thought, and I knew that if I don't raise this concern to the global team, nothing could change. And if I raise it, how I'll be perceived and whether I will even have a job there, I don't know. So I wasn't even sure that was going to happen to me. But in the end, I pulled it together and I did what I had to do because that's the right thing. And so the move that I did wasn't based on confidence, it was based on value. So I chose to raise, and when I saw the outcome of it in the end was really to the right direction that I wanted, it was pleasing. However, the emotional turbulence that I went through did not settle. I was always feeling uneasy with the change that I had to take on even after that because I was still alone and I was bridging that gap alone because my leaders were sitting very far from me. And so this experience always has been in my head when I talk about change, and it taught me that people don't resist change because they don't understand. It's because they have to deal with it a lot of time alone and they don't understand how to deal with that. And I'm sharing this personal story not because it's unique. That's because this is common. Many of us have gone through this at least once in our life, work life, in our career. So most people don't struggle with the change itself. They struggle carrying it quietly within them. Rita, do you have any question for this
Yeah,
deck? For
yeah,
this?
absolutely, absolutely. But while I was listening to your story, right? So there are lots of challenges and so on, and ultimately you make it. So maybe we should have another session for you to share with us the process of how to make it happen.
Like I said, you can make it happen, but you can't take the emotion that kills me inside me.
That
But
is true.
those are the things where it teaches you to be much more stronger.
Yeah, that was a very good experience for you too. Yeah. So I do have questions for you, Gayatheri. What does the word change trigger emotion before
Mhm.
understanding? And what should leaders do about that?
So change always will trigger emotion. If we want to change a house, it's going to trigger us emotion. Change partner also can trigger emotion, Rita. Everything can change trigger emotion. So you know why? Because it immediately raises questions of identity,
Mhm.
conflict. Where do I fit in? The balance I want to strike. Where do I belong right now? And safety, job security, everything. It triggers
Mhm.
every emotion that's inside here, and different people have different emotion in this kind of place. All this emotion will be triggered before you go to the before even you go to the strategy. Nobody cares about the strategy when you put up there, I'm going to make a change, here's the strategy. No, that's not what bothers people. What is it to for me? What does it mean to me? What's going to do to my work? What it's going to do to me today, tomorrow? Will I last? Will I have you? Even if you change the system, I need to learn this new system. Now, how effective can I be using the new system? How fast can I produce it? How much time it's going to take? When you talk about change, you are shaking a person's comfort zone. And that's what triggers emotion actually. So a lot of time leaders underestimate this and move straight into explanation why we want to change, straight away into the explanation. We don't address these emotional triggers that happens in people, right? And so when we just go into addressing why we are doing what we are doing, straight into the details, straight into the strategy, straight into the papers that we have prepared, whatever, we end up compromising the emotion and start rationalizing everything.
Mhm. So what should leader do then?
And that's why. So the most common mistake that we are making, which is also like when I say to you, right? Before you even go to put up a strategy, before even you start triggering a change, the most
Mhm.
important thing is you bring people into the change.
Mhm.
Include them from the start, from the beginning. It's a journey, and the journey doesn't start when you have completed your plan. The
Mhm.
journey starts before you even start the planning, right? You want to
Mm.
change something, you bring your people together and say, I have an idea, this is what we want to do. I think this is going to do good for this, whatever reason that you want to. Even if the smallest change, you are bringing Chat GPT to increase your efficiency. It is still a big change because some people are going to be very worried about their job, right? Like, oh, will I have a job now? What would it do? But you have to tell people what this is going to do and how do you see this for yourself. Where do you fit in this particular change? Small scale, medium scale, or large scale, it doesn't matter. But when you bring people along with the journey from the planning stage, not once you have the plan in place, you actually manage this much better. These triggers of emotion will shut down on its own. Because people now feel like, I know why they are doing it. I was part of that. I understand this well.
Mhm. I like it. I like it. Putting them into the change and
Yeah,
then
it's a
involve
journey.
them at the
Yeah,
very
like I
first
said.
beginning.
Yeah, like I
Mhm.
said, if you want to buy a house as two partners, if your partner just shows you the house out of surprise, maybe you like it, maybe you won't like it. But if he brings you and show you, even if it's a surprise, this is how it's good. You're like, I don't like the feng shui. I don't want to be there. So you make a decision, right? So,
Mm.
however, it's the same thing how we deal with our personal change. You want to be part of the change from the beginning.
Mm.
It's the same thing
Right.
in organization. It's more so in the organization. We need to be mindful about that.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned one point which I like a lot. A lot of people communicate but not connect, right? They don't connect enough.
Yeah.
So is there anything leaders should do in order to close the gap?
Of course, leaders need to understand that our role is not just at scale. It's just not about personally carrying the emotional heights of every change and then become a therapy over there. No, actually, it's about designing the
Mhm.
condition for people to understand how this change will fit into their day to day life at work. How will
Mhm.
it fit into their own progression? Because if the company makes a positive change, the company progress, you progress. There's a
Mm.
connection to it. It's rarely where company is progressed and people are behind. Then that's a gap. When company progress, you progress. And that
Mhm.
connection You cannot just say, you need to show.
Mm-hmm.
So in Star, what we have done is that one example I can give you is that our performance management is not a standalone thing. From
Mm-hmm.
the way we assess people to the way we do look into calibration of potentials and to how we look into career progression, it's together. It's all this comes together. And so this is connection for us. When we made the change on the rating scale, which very much we did early this year, last year, we changed the rating scale. After 26 years, we changed performance rating scale. Shocked everybody. But we made sure they understood this rating and the scale and how it connects to the potential, the calibration of potentials, and how it then connects to your delivery and how it connects to your career progression. Because our
Mm-hmm.
career progression is based on skills progression. We
Mm-hmm.
don't focus on hierarchical progression. We focus on breadth, depth, and influence. So people understood the connection of this, and the change became easier because, yeah, I know where I need to, why I need this to do this, why if I do this, I can grow here.
Mm, very nice. I love the word why, right? Okay, so they know what's in it for them, so that they would
Hey,
they are ready to go together with the company.
yes,
Very
absolutely.
nice, very nice. I have another question for you, Gadri. What is
Yeah,
one common mistake organizations make when trying to create alignment during change?
assuming. So, organization or anybody, for the matter, leaders, when they make a change, they tend to assume alignments comes from clarity alone. It doesn't. You can give any kind of clarity to people, but if people don't still understand, they are not going to align with you. It's not going to happen. It's an assumption. It's also assumption when leaders make a plan and think, "Ah, I know my people will do it. I know this guy will do it. I know that team will do it." Everything is based on assumption. You can't make a plan a change based on assumption. You need to
Mm,
have certain amount of understanding, clear content understanding. If not, you can't do that. So organizations spend a lot of time aligning plans, aligning everything, messages, but leaving people to just make their own sense about whatever that's happening. Then you create the gap, you create the void
mm,
already, right? So alignment will always fail when you don't give the right experience to people.
mm. Alignment. Okay. Without it's always a gap without giving the
Yeah,
right
exactly.
explanation to
Alignment,
people. Love
assuming
it.
is the biggest mistake, right? We don't assume. Assuming will
Mm,
never, will not always give us the right outcome.
yeah. Agree. Yeah. No assumptions. Just
Yeah,
yeah.
you
Just
when
let
you
them know.
if I assume, Rita, you know how I'm going to conduct this session, and then you come to the session, we could, if we don't have that, if I assumed, I couldn't have aligned with you. So
True. Very
it's
true.
important that we talk, we connect, we understand each other. There's a chemistry, there's something that's very important if we want to have a conversation. And
Yeah.
so, likewise, if you want to change, you have to do all those things as well.
Very true. That's why we did it, right? Before we
Yes,
had the session. Yeah.
yes,
Nice.
yes.
Okay. So I don't have any questions up to now. Thank you, Kadri.
Sure, yeah. So I just want to make sure. So before we go any further, I just want to invite whoever is in this call, just to, no need to answer, no need to do anything, but just think through this day. Think of a change where you just went along, but you never fully owned the change. And why did you quietly took it on when you were asked to do so? Right?
Kadri, we have a question here. So I have
Yeah.
to zoom in a bit. Can you see the question here? It's
I
from
can
Victor.
fully
Victor.
see the question. I see this. Change
Yeah.
usually breaks down lack of transparency, management underestimate our employee. Yeah, that's assuming, right? Because
Yeah.
management tends to assume that they know their people so well. They know that this is the right thing for people. And so when you don't bring people from the beginning of the change that you want to make, you're assuming that people will accept the change that you are making. Then that's where there is no transparency what people are doing. That people don't know why they are doing this. Because
Mm.
in their mind, you can bring, as a leader, I can bring there and show the best strategy on change. But people's mind is that, are you hiding something that I don't know? What is in there that I need to know that you're not telling me? How did you make this decision? You will say two, three words. This is how the decision was. I need to believe in this. I need to believe in this. So that's why when you bring them ahead of time into that, you don't create this lack of transparency issue, lack of trust issue. You avoid all these unnecessary questions. Then you build the ownership in people because people will own it up because the trust is already there from the start.
Mm. Thanks, Victor, for the comments. Yeah. Thank you, Gayatheri. Yes.
So once change is usually announced, what organization look for is let's get on, let's move with it. Let's move on with it, right? I've announced the change. Let's move with it because that's it. A lot of time, yes, your organization can get with it, can move with it, but movement isn't the same as ownership, right? Because compliance is often quiet. People comply, confirm, accept, and just do the work. No question is asked. Meet the timeline and done. But
Mm-hmm.
ownership is noisier, actually.
Mm.
Ownership will shake the status quo, will ask questions, will seek clarity, and will adapt, will be agile, will move on, will agile. So many leaders tend to think that resistance is coming, is the opposite of engagement. It's actually not. It's the silence that people take on and just comply with whatever that they've been asked to do. And sometimes there is also a notion, again, assumption that people will comply are the best because they don't retaliate, they don't ask questions. But a lot of time, that's not how you build high performing culture. Because high performers, high potentials will ask questions. That's how talent dynamic is. So when they ask question, that is good because they're taking ownership. Why I'm doing what I'm doing. And you'll always have a bunch of people who are in the organization. I'm fine, I don't care what the company does, I'll just do. They are driven by different motivation. And there are people who are driven with different motivation. And that is also why whenever we want to change, we always focus on the group of people who are ready to go with the flow, right?
Mm.
Because these people are the, you can call them champions, you can call them the resilience ones, whatever name you want to call them, but you'll always focus on the group of people who are ready to take this on. They will question, they will seek clarity, they will ask you questions, they will come out and tell you why this will work or not work. And these are the people you group together because these people will be the core people who can drive the change first. Then you focus on the set of people who still resisting, sitting on the fence or in a different part, they will start coming. And it's a journey, and that's how it happens, right? So when
Mm.
people carry things a lot of time very quietly, they are actually very disengaged, but they don't show it. It takes time because they're just complying with it. So I'll just go with the flow, right? And compliance can look like success for a long time. Trust me. I've seen that people just suck it up and just do the work. It looks very successful. Oh, we have done a great change. But the real question isn't about how, the real question is about how we're going to drive the ownership in them. Because someone who complies will continue doing, someone who owns it will look and seek for ways to do this better. And that's what you want. Yeah.
Mm.
Questions, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. Gayatheri?
Yeah.
Maybe okay. I love your idea that when people has the ownership, right? They understand, they ask difficult questions, they adapt, and also feel responsible. I love that, and also they go with the flow, right? Okay, I have a question here. What is the key difference between people complying with change and truly owning it? The
So
key
when you
difference.
compliance is about following instruction. It's a very simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
Give you something, it's a process, I follow, this is what I've been told. You comply to everything. That's what compliance is
Mm-hmm.
about. The word itself
Mm-hmm.
always triggers this thought in our, it's a process thing. Whereas ownership is about you're feeling responsible for the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
You take it on and you know that's the outcome. The organization, the management one, the leaders one, the functional leaders one, and you one. It's all aligned. The
Mm-hmm.
outcome is aligned. And so you take that ownership to drive that. Yeah. So to back to one example I told you earlier, when
Mm-hmm.
someone complies with the change, they will just do the work because the
Mm-hmm.
motivation factor might be very different. But someone who owns it will question it.
Mm-hmm.
You made this change, they will ask, maybe we can do a little bit more to this. We can do a little bit more refinement. Maybe we can make a little bit more change here because that's how agile mindset works. That's how growth mindset works. And you will see this growth and agile mindset, and a lot of people would take ownership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right, right, right. So I just thought in my mind, sir. So in order to prove that I have the ownership, I need to make more noises. Not that be, not that be silent,
I
not
want
that
to
be
hear good
quiet. Don't be
noise.
so quiet in order to show that I have the ownership.
No,
Okay,
it's
so
a good noise, not the bad noise. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
there must be
absolutely,
some amount of
absolutely.
common sense when we tell people, like, I have the good noise, because that helps. Common
Yeah,
sense
that's
and good judgment. My leader always says this to us, and I strongly believe in this. This two goes together. When you
very
own
true.
something, you must have these two together because you can't be black and white. You
Mm,
need to use this to make decisions as well.
mm-hmm.
Common sense and the
So
good judgment.
yeah, very true. So if leaders could only just do one thing to turn resistance into engagement, what would it be?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Ah, okay. You
If
keep
leaders could do one thing,
yeah. What would yeah? If leaders can do one thing, can only just do one thing to turn resistance into engagement, what would it be?
create a space. And I'm not talking about
Oh.
safe space here. Create space for people to talk about how this change or that particular change is lending for them before even
Mhm,
asking them to act or do it. And that
mhm,
space, only that you as a leader, I as a leader, we decide what kind of space is the best space for people to talk about that feeling that they have about how this change is landing for them.
mhm.
So I'll give you one more example. When I told
Mhm.
you earlier, we were changing this whole performance structure after 26 years, and we are changing. It's a
Yeah.
big thing, right? So when I was doing the whole entire integrated performance system, brought in the senior directors and the directors together and pulled in. When I did the first session, we went through the structure and I asked them, this is the structure, how do you feel about it? We made some refinement because that space was for them to debate it out, because these directors were coming from different functions and verticals, so they have different thought process when they were coming together. However, performance management system that we are putting together, it's not meant for one verticals, one function, it's the entire organization. So it doesn't matter how diverse you are in your own function, how diversely you operate, but the organization is going to review performance and career path, everything in the same way. There's one structure
Mhm,
to it. So this diverse mindset and the thoughts and the opinions and the insights and inputs were very important to calibrate and create one that everybody accepts, right? So if I tell you, I had done this, if let's say I went to them and say, hey, I've done this, is a career progression, this is a performance rating, this is everything, take it. The dynamic would have been very different because they're like, but why? Why did you do? I don't know how to do it for my team. I don't believe in this. This won't work for me. There would have been a lot of questions, a lot, because you know what? I would have walked in there to ask them to comply with the change I've made. But what I did is instead of doing that, I brought them together into that structure, the framework, and we refined and refined together. I didn't give them too much, little bit now and then when they need to. They owned it up. In the end, they owned it up. So when finally the work was done and we were ready to launch, I didn't have to do too much work on this because the leaders believed in it. They knew why we did it. So they didn't comply, they owned. So their people owned it. My work was much easier actually.
Okay, thank you so much. Creating space for them. That's the word.
Yes, you create
Okay.
space. You create space, and you have a lot more win when you do that.
Yeah. Okay. I know that Gayathri has to leave in around 10 to 15 minutes. So, in the interest of time, Gayathri, I know that you still have something to share with us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go to the next slide. Yeah. So, yeah, most leaders believe that their role during change is to explain it very well. Of course, we all have to explain it very well, but to know that that's a process. Explaining is a process. You may be given a script, you've been be maybe given a certain way how you can explain the change, but you're doing it as a process. But explanation alone doesn't help people to locate themselves within the change. It doesn't help, right? People don't ask, do I understand the strategy, when you just bring the word change to somebody. That's not the first question comes to their mind. Even quietly, even the louder ones, they won't say that. The quiet ones will keep it inside them. The question will be, where do I fit now? How does it matter to me? That's what it's going to come, right? So the question is never answered through presentation, email, all these campaigns that we put up. It truly lies in the conversation that we have. And the conversation has to be effective, thoughtful, mindful, connecting, and then you get this done. And it doesn't happen in a day. You might have two conversations, four conversations, five conversations, depending how. You see, I'm not saying in real world, I am also in a real world. Some people just make it harder. So we have to deal with that in a different way. And some people get it. It's easier. And some people sit at the fence. You have a choice whether you're going to have that conversation to move them to the right path or the left path.
Yeah, I love your ideas about conversation, right? Not just communication, but we converse with them, right? We know
Yes,
what's on their mind, right?
yeah. I think delivering message to help people to make sense changes the entire scene. People start
Mm-hmm.
owning up. But if you just deliver a script, it doesn't land right at all. They know, people know. Nowadays, people know a lot more. They know a lot more, and they have sense about what you're doing and what you're doing. So we need to make people to understand that we care and not faking the care, genuinely care. It's a two different thing. Faking the care, people can sense it too. Genuinely care, people feel it in the heart. Okay,
Okay.
and all
Yeah.
that I think people need is that they just need acknowledgement.
Mm-hmm.
And the acknowledgement comes with how we're going to be emotionally literate, and not to take every emotion that comes out and become a therapy. No, but how do you use it still non-sentimentally to navigate the conversation and make people understand why we want to do what we want to do. So you acknowledge, but you don't have to become a therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you just mentioned. Genuinely care and
Mhm. Mhm.
acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Very powerful. So, how can leaders help individuals see where they personally fit into a large organizational change?
Well, it also depends the scale of how we operate, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the management's role is to make sure everybody feels the change and it fits into the larger vision and mission and business and the goal of the larger organization. Then you break down into different functions, right? So the first is how you fit in the larger scale of the change. And then how do you fit into your own functional and your own functional change? And then how do you then fit into another layer and level of it, right? So if very large, the layers and levels goes a lot more and the change becomes different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people need to feel that they fit there. Like I say, your communication should not be in general terms anymore. You can't still, if you have 5 levels, you can't bring the vision and the mission of the organization and bring it down to the fifth level. Is this is what we want to achieve. People don't understand. For an example, I worked in a always a global organization, and every time global wants to make a change, they will send it to the region. Each regions will take it, and then we will review whether how we're going to adapt and implement it in our region. And then based on how will fit us the best, we will then go and pass it on to each of the local countries. And trust me, the filtration that we do, the amendments that we work on plays a big role, because we in the region have the ability to influence and make the change with the global and also with the local countries. So we are right in the middle of it. So we have the ability to influence both. We are the mediators, we're the facilitators to get this done. And so we need to play that role very well. And that's where we need to help people to understand how this change lands for them, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
just take everything that global said to you and just copy black and white like that, that won't land right with people. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this starts with we being what's our role, where we are right now, and how do we navigate this with the global even before they plan the change. Make sure
Mm-hmm.
the region and the local needs are adapted, put together, integrated. So when you put it down, you bring it down, when you flow it down to the region and the local, it's more flawless in that way than you trying to push an idea just like that, which will not fit everywhere. Asia is the most diverse place actually. You can't fit one system, one strategy everywhere. You still need to change it according to culture, work, ways of work, and things like that.
Yeah, very true. So I understand that, Gayathri, you still have one slide to share with us, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So I think I can finish that. Sorry, it's a bit of a time
Yeah.
time press for me.
Yeah.
So I can go into this if you're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then maybe I can take one more question after that, and
Yes.
which I would
Yeah.
like to share one experience of how we have done this change,
Okay.
especially in Star Alliance. So, yeah, see,
Mm.
shared purpose doesn't just announce itself. It doesn't come like that. It's very hard to build shared purpose. It takes time. So, if today I'm talking about change and I'm saying, yeah, go and do all these, shared purpose will come. That's absurd. It's not going to happen. These are ways of how you can make this happen. But to make this happen, consistency, reinforcement, behavioral, consistent behavior, sustainable behaviors are very important. You have to do that, right? When change is owned by management, people just wait. They take the decision that we say, they look for permission, they don't do anything. But when you make it theirs and ours, they make a decision and they start doing it on their own. They take the initiative to do it. They will do it even when you're not there. This change, the talk will happen in the rooms where the leaders are not there. It will just automatically open. You know why? People owned it up. And they see change as part of their day to day life. This is how we do things here. I've heard this in many places, right? This is how we do things here. The sense of ownership and belonging becomes very strong there.
Mm.
If people say this is how it is done there, it is done here because they're complying. When you own
Mhm.
it, you have a different sense of that. And that's what we want to create when we say about shared purpose that lasts. And it doesn't happen overnight. Trust me, it doesn't happen overnight at all.
Mm. Yeah, very true. And Gayathri, earlier you mentioned that you're going to share with us a story at Star Alliance, right? We love
Yeah,
hearing stories. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, that would be like something for the last slide that I want to share. So now I'll introduce Star Alliance as well. For those who don't know Star Alliance much, we moved ourselves from Frankfurt, Germany, about 2.5 years to 3 years ago. We are in the business about 28 years. We are the we are the one who created the industry in terms of alliance for us, actually. So we deal with 26 years legacy organization, and we are made up of multiple member airlines, strong identities, very deeply rooted ways of working. So um, after 26 years, about 3 years ago, we decided we would move ourselves to a different region altogether. And with that, there was a need, not out of urgency, but it was important to move beyond the 26 years of legacy model. So it was how to evolve without breaking trust, losing what we have made as the alliance together, and also to be very sensitive with how our member carriers are working, how we work with them, and not to disrupt their work as well. So we used ADKAR, an agile operating model, not as a checklist, but a framework. But also, we never got too stuck to agile ceremonies. But we used both as a way to discipline how the organization was experiencing the change. So it didn't stay very theoretical, and it was not leader driven. It was people driven for us. So the first thing that we did is we created awareness. We focused first on how we want to create a shared awareness where people can see, are aware that the change is needed and it matters. And then we distinguished between what was broken and needed immediate attention and what was suboptimal but could leave for another 24 to 36 months. It can wait. And what was critical for our member carriers to succeed and for us to be successful as well in navigating our conversations and working with them. So, very importantly, this was not done by leaders alone. We didn't do it on our own. We empowered people in the organization to bring forward their own fact findings, due diligence, gaps, and they believed that truly needed change. So that shifted awareness from something communicated to something collectively owned by all of us. And that shared awareness then naturally created the desire to see the change to happen, right? Because we created awareness. When you know something that needs to change, and you know when that change it's going to give you this outcome, the desire starts coming in is, yeah, it's great, let's do it. So we didn't try to convince people at all. Like we really, we didn't do that. We didn't go and convince them to get the buy-in. It's them who presented to us what matters to them in terms of change. So through leadership forums, through different forums, we made visible to what people were being asked to let go, especially a lot of the way we have done things in the past, which will not serve us or will not fit into our next 5 years plan. And then we looked into familiar decisions paths and then expected that a culture that we were in the past will not bring us to where we want to go. So that culture that we were will not deliver the outcomes we needed. So it's very clear. So we are talking about operate or how we operate. We are talking about the culture. We are talking about the performance. We are talking about all the other gaps that is there from a systematic point of view. So then people reached the conclusion themselves that while the effort was high, the culture wasn't producing the results required to fully realize the value of the alliance altogether. So, with all this, the awareness and the desire, the knowledge became powerful for us. So, it was practical, it was very contextual in people. Instead of pushing a single central narratives, we translated into intent. We focused on intent so much. Every intent, every time we did something, why the intent was very important. Because when people understand the intents, they get into the relevance of it. When it's relevant, when we talk about relevance just not the word, but how is it relevant to me? How does it matter to me? How does it matter to other functions? How are we going to work together? How does it matter to our member carriers? So what really happened is that as people discussed gaps, the needs and what and how and also how they're going to change this together, knowledge became multiplied. It just naturally happened. Of course, we had a lot of problems in how this even happened. Right? There were like noises, unnecessary noises. There were real frictions that happen. But the idea is we leaders are coming in to move the frictions to flow. That's what it is. So that's what we did. And I'm not painting a great picture. It took 3 years to get where we are with all these turbulence that we also faced, right? So cross collaboration really increased. We tried to break the siloness in a very mild way. We were not going straight and please, you have to work with this person, but we soften it because it takes time to build this. People need to see the need to work together, not being told to work together. And people learn that they can't achieve anything on their own. They need each other to do this together. And then the ability was about how we were bridging the individual skill gaps. And coming to what I said, we built a performance career progression based on skills progression, not hierarchical progression. So that's one thing that we have done. We also looked into removing systematic blockers. So we did very individual study to understand what are the blockers that people are facing, the frictions they are having, challenges they are having, and a few other clear questions that was talking about processes, talking about competing priorities, talking about what's making it harder for them to get where they want to get. So that way, it was responsibility was shared. Yeah, leaders still owned it, but people took the responsibility. And lastly, it was really 2 years was all the storms and formings and whatsoever. And finally, late last year was more of reinforcement of what we have done. So we came together on governance and leadership rhythm, people's working rhythm, connection, and then how we discuss in senior forums, how do we facilitate and mediate conversations with our member carriers, how do we tell a story when we talk to them and not just present a deck. Everybody knows in this organization that telling a story is how we will facilitate and mediate. We will not present decks. We don't do that. So it's everybody's and everybody's mindset. It's the way that we work. So it was very consistent. And also, leaders played a huge role because we were consistent with how we appeared every day. Being present, appearing the way we appeared, the way we supported, the way we led them was consistent, right? So now we are in our third year. The chief has moved from empowerment to very much ownership, and today we are focusing on leading, elevating, excelling as an organization, truly building a more sustainable culture, depth in our leadership, depth in our skill set, depth in our breadth in our influence, and also momentum so that we can deliver our 5-year business plan. Yeah.
Wow. I think we need another session. Yeah, you to tell us the whole process.
Sorry, I took extra time, but yeah. Anyway, that was just to
Yeah,
share.
anyway, so from shared awareness to create desire up to now, you now have the shared responsibility of employees, the ownership and everything.
Yeah,
Wow. I think we
yeah,
need to another session to learn from you on how to get it done. It's really a
yeah.
big project. It takes more than 3 years, right? And I think it's
Yeah,
still
yeah. I mean, I just told you, right? We had, I was storming, kind of like calm down. We are more stable, but then there's still a lot more work that needs to be done. It's not going to end. It's organization, it never ends. It will always be there.
true.
Even 2 years from now, we will still have some other things that we need to deal with. That's what it is. Change will be inevitable in organizations, and that's one important thing that we must understand. And any theory, any model, any methodologies that you use, it's good, but you should not use it as the only way or how you want to lead and deal with change. There's a huge emotional element that relates us to each other. And these
Very
are the
true.
unspoken thing, and that is where emotional intelligence is very important. Emotional literacy is very important. So we don't mix up between becoming a soft therapy, but really, I hear you. Yes, I acknowledge. Then navigating that emotion to somewhere where it's more productive.
Wow, very nice. So, wow, I have got a lot of nuggets wisdoms from you today, like putting people into the change, right?
Yeah.
And then we also have to give them the right explanation in order to close the gap, and then make them the owner and ask them to make more noises. But of course, these noises should make
Good
sense, right?
noise.
Yeah, good noise. Right, right, right. And also give them the space And also as leader, we have to genuinely care for them, acknowledge them,
Yeah.
and then you share with the story about your company, how you started from shared awareness and then create desire and up to the current level. Wow, amazing, amazing. Any closing remarks for us, Gayatheri?
Sorry, I think I've spoken a lot. I really don't have much closing, but I can only tell you that, like I said, you can reinforce if you want, but reinforcing without understanding people, what they feel, and bringing them along in the journey from the beginning will not make any of the framework that we use successful. That's for sure. I've used other models as well. I've done many changes, and I've seen this one thing is people are not with you from the beginning. It will just crumble. Yeah, and we
Mm.
need to honor human experience inside whatever we do. Structure matters, but shared purpose is only built when how leaders show up, how decisions are made, how ownership is distributed, how much trust we build in people, how do we really connect with people.
Very nice. So we start with understanding, to understand them, right?
Yes.
Before we connect with them.
Yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very nice. So that has concluded our session today. I know that we have a bit overrun, and I understand that Gayatheri has to rush to another meeting. But thank you so much for the wonderful session. Especially, I love the stories that you have shared with us. Thanks
Thank you.
again, and yeah, thank you so much. And I wish, and we will continue with our session next week. And next week we have invited a speaker who works in a quite a a tech company, and they have deployed a lot of strategies on how to cope and how to work with their new generation, especially Gen Z, because I understand that company, they have a lot of, the majority of the employees are Gen Z. So they have deployed a lot of strategies and tactics to cope with them very well.
Interesting.
So yeah, just see you next week and same time next Wednesday. Again, thank you so much. And I wish everybody
See
a very
you.
nice day and enjoy the rest of the week. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.